Good morning. I'm Lieutenant Colonel Mike Taylor, the Task Force Senior Trainer for the WARHOG Maneuver Team here at the Joint Multinational Readiness Center, Hohenfels, Germany. We just finished up with Exercise Allied Spirit 25, and we're sitting down with Captain Eugene Patton, the Headquarters and Headquarters Troop Commander from the 1st Squadron, 91st Cavalry Regiment, part of the 173rd Airborne Brigade, who's operating during this rotation underneath the Lithuanian Griffin Brigade. Good morning, Captain Patton. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself and your experience?
Yes, sir. I've been in the military now for 15 years. Spent 7 years as a prior service aviation crew chief, and then came over and now I'm a field artillery officer.
All right. Could you describe your time during this rotation?
My time during this rotation, sir, was spent with the CTCP and primarily operating as a tertiary C2 node, controlling the Role 1 as well as reconstitution packs during the rotation.
So you're balancing between like a normal unit playing the part of an infantry battalion, at least during this rotation, as 191 Cavalry faces an upcoming reflagging, and then this transformation and contact efforts across the U.S. Army. How did you handle that during this rotation?
So for that, sir, I'm the primary for the transformation and contact portion. We sort of divvy them up. I think a lot of it comes out to just delegation. It's putting the right people in the right place. We've got a really good radar, or a really good drone PL, and the UAS PL is exceptionally good, and we're able to do that. And I think the same goes across with all of our formations, the medical, as well as our drones, and as well as some other key places. I think it helps us delegate the tasks and give some autonomy to allow people to accomplish what they need to accomplish.
Yeah. What did you find most challenging during the rotation?
I think during this rotation, some of the most challenging things that we had were just ensuring that, one, I think comms is always an issue. So like our primary comms work great, but our secondary comms, a little trouble. And I think that was harder for us to maintain. And I think the other big struggle that we had was our communication up to higher about CASEVAC and what that was for us and what the determining factor was getting from Role 1 to Role 2 and how we were doing that and the length of time that took in the first 4 or 5 days. That caused us a lot of friction.
Yeah. So surely it was a little bit harder for you operating as part of a multinational brigade as well. So there are some unique challenges here at the Joint Multinational Readiness Center that you might not find at the Joint Readiness Training Center or the National Training Center. How do you think you dealt with those challenges in particular?
The challenges here, sir, I think it helps that we've been here a couple of times before. But I think the biggest thing that you could do that is different from here than the other training centers, I've been to all three, here you got to focus on the fundamentals. There's a lot of preparation that has to be done before you come here. Driver's training, I believe, is probably the most important thing that you could do before you show up here. Driver's training during the night, and not just 1 or 2 days, but weeks, because it will help when you get into some of the terrain here. And without it, I don't think that you can be successful. And I think also just the process of having good systems and processes also help in the absence of orders and not having good communication. You got to focus on the fundamentals coming here, and I think it's really important.
What surprised you the most about the exercise?
I think in this situation, what surprised us the most was one, working through with allied partners, realizing the different swivel chair actions that we had to do in order to communicate back and forth was definitely something that we had to work through, especially in the reconstitution process. We were working through a few separate means just to get a reconstitution packet up. And then I think just working through just how our system and processes work with our allied partners' system and processes and mending those two together and getting those to work seamlessly towards the end was pretty good.
So this rotation was structured a little bit differently than most other rotations, where you were afforded a little bit more opportunity to prepare for a defense prior to going into an offensive phase of the exercise. How did that strain or provide some challenges for you as an HHT commander?
So for me in the CTCP, where the challenge comes from is where do I position the CTCP and where do I position the Role 1? There's a doctrinally correct answer, but when you're working with a thinking and free-thinking enemy that can exploit some of your lines of defense and penetrate through some of that, even with like a small dismounted force, you really have to think critically about where are you going to put the CTCP and where are you going to put the Role 1, where you might want it to be centrally located, may not always work for you. And it's a large challenge of where do you put something that has to provide support forward. And sometimes I can't always go forward because there's prepared positions there. Going back doesn't always help. And then exposing an ambulance out in the open, also not good. So there's a lot of friction and a lot of challenge about where do you place yourself and how do you stay undetected and how can you still communicate. I think was the largest challenge in placing a CTCP, and then as well as the lasso system, where do we put that?
And sometimes we face some difficulty when we're transitioning from that defensive operation into the offense. How do you think you handled that phase of the operation? Hey, we think we've defeated the enemy's attack, and now we're going to transition into the offense. What did you do in particular about it, and what kind of challenges did you face with regard to that phase of the operation?
So moving into the offense, sir, the first thing that I looked at was how do I get the CTCP forward, recognizing that it might be forward of both C2 nodes, both the tactical or the MCP. So I knew that was a risk, and I knew that it was going to be a challenge and that I had to stay relatively close to the flot just because we were going to go on the attack, and Kazovac backwards was going to be a very big thing that we needed to get right. So it was looking at where was the flot going to be and how much could I get up there without affecting our partners as well as our own force moving forward, but I could still provide some sort of casualty assistance where needed. And that was the hard part in understanding where I needed to move north, south, or east, west to get us in the right spot for that.
To take care of the the task force in this case, which was much larger than just 191 Cav. So you've got these unique specialty platoons. How do you think you guys did on preparing, or what did you do differently to prepare the medical platoon and the mortar platoon in preparation for this exercise?
If I could speak on all three, sir, so the UAS platoon as well. I think for the UAS, what we did is we got them integrated with the troops early. 6 or 7 months ago, we started integrating them with the troops so that the troops understood how the UAS operators worked, what they were looking at, and how to send that information back. With the medics, it was the same. We sent medics down early this time, and we got them integrated into the troops so that they knew their medics and they worked with their medics every single solitary day. And then we built the same thing where our doc and our evac medics also spent time at the troops. So there wasn't a newness when dealing with the medics. There wasn't any nervousness when the medics pushed forward to try to get with them to build those relationships. And then with the mortars was the same. We spent a lot of time working split operations, a lot of time what happens if the platoon leader is gone? What happens if the platoon sergeant is gone? And lifting up some of our younger leaders and our younger soldiers that are E4s, because we lost a lot of our senior leadership, to help them take the reins and to do things without the absence of their leadership. And so that they learned what they needed to do when no one else was around.
Yeah, so that UAS platoon and UAS, the proliferation of UAS across the board is a big opportunity for maneuver forces, but also it comes from some risks because of the proliferation of that data that comes in. And then there are so many different systems that we're experimenting with. And then there are operator training levels and whatnot that haven't been completely fleshed out yet. How did you guys train those UAS operators and fully integrate them into the maneuver troops?
So, sir, for us, we've had some experience training some other foreign partners, and then what we did is we took an aggregate of the training processes we used there, some training processes from Special Operations and from the Marines, and we have a big group chat that we're all in, and we all aggregated all of their information and what they did, and then we built our own POI. And then we vetted that POI through our brigade commander, and then we started to teach that POI, not just to our own operators, but then to the troops as well. So within each troop is probably 1 or 2 personnel that can also fly the system, and then we get them up to our facility, the Bali facility, and we have them train repetitively. And in some cases, what we've done is there's 1, maybe 2 personnel in each troop that's all they do. And they spend their entire days at Bali. We teach them how to build drones, we teach them how to fly the drones, we put them on the simulator, and they work hand in hand with their UAS operators so that they are just as familiar and intimate with those systems and how to understand all the data as it's coming through. So it allows them to also paint a picture for us. But we use the UAS platoon primarily as a mentor, as a teacher, to teach systems to the rest of the force.
One final question for you, Captain Patton. What would you recommend to another headquarters and headquarters troop or company commander preparing for a rotation here at the Joint Multinational Readiness Center?
I believe it's the fundamentals. It's the basics. I think sometimes we get ahead of ourselves and we want to do a lot of the, especially right now, we want to do a lot of technological things, a lot of the new stuff, but we forget the very bare bones basics things of like PCIs, PCCs. Have we brought all the right equipment? Have we checked all the equipment? Does the equipment work? I think the basics.
All right. Thank you for your time, your thoughts, and great rotation here at the Joint Multinational Readiness Center.